It's Thursday, August 24. In the headlines, a senator addresses Jamaica's travel issues. In business news, gas prices and diesel prices are down. Regionally, Bahamas Prime Minister suggests legal action against oil-producing countries. Internationally, Egypt, Iran, Saudi Arabia and UAE invited to join a BRICS alliance. And in sports, news on World Athletics Championships. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. The numbers are down. That response from Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith, as she discussed the issue of Jamaicans traveling through Mexico in a bid to illegally enter the United States of America. She was speaking on the Good Morning Minister program on Love 101 FM on Wednesday.
I understand that the numbers are down, firstly.
So less people are going.
Yes, but it's still, the U.S. has changed their policy. So one, of course, they have a thing now that if you cross the border illegally and you are identified and deported, you are banned from even applying for a regular tourist visa for 5 years. Minister Johnson-Smith notes the intention of some Jamaicans to go through other countries like Panama. The systems are becoming more sensitive and they're sharing more information. So, for example, we know that there are people being turned back from Panama as well. Because what they were starting to do is say, okay, well, if you're coming from Jamaica or you're coming from, and remember, Panama is how most people get to Mexico. So sometimes they're turned back from Panama before they get to Mexico. Mm-hmm. And maybe you had an old conviction, you don't even remember about it in the US, and you're going to Panama. But the U.S. and Panama now share a lot of information, so it's going to flag you in Panama. And as for those who overstay after getting their U.S. visa legally, if you overstay and you think it's okay, you're up there and it's no big deal, you stay for another month because you're having a good time, or you meet somebody who you want to spend more time with, whatever it is, you think it's okay. But when you overstay, when you return to Jamaica, you may not be able to apply for a visa again, or when you get it, rather, you'll be turned down. The minister also addressed the issue of Jamaica not being part of Canada's expanded electronic travel authorization program. So the first thing is that our refusal rate for visa applications was double the threshold that they had for countries that were eligible for ETA. And why are our people refused at such a high rate? Because we don't complete the form, so people feel that we're being dishonest. So if they ask you if you have been convicted in a country, and this may be from, a non-payment of a travel ticket and they have a warrant issued somewhere, and you don't say that it is, they mark it as a lie, as a dishonest response. If they ask you, if you're married and you say you're single, or, anything like that.
So hold on, so if you lie on your visa form,
yes,
you don't get the visa.
And not only are you unlikely to get your visa, but it's flagged against Jamaicans generally.
The PBCJ understands that Minister of State in the Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining, Frank Witter, and his driver are in hospital in serious condition, arising from a motor vehicle crash in Porous, Manchester last night. It is being reported that the vehicle in which they traveled reportedly flipped 3 times before coming to a stop. It is believed that the men, who both live in St. Elizabeth, were heading home when the crash occurred. We will have more on this story as it unfolds. Truck operators are being cautioned not to breach the law by overloading the vehicles and having the aggregate falling out. They are being reminded that it is dangerous to whoever is traveling behind them. Acting Manager for Communications and Customer Service at the National Works Agency, Stacey De Levante, says she is receiving reports from motorists in St. Thomas about aggregates falling from trucks transporting these on sections of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, and has referred the matter to the police. Ms. De Levante revealed that as recent as last week, she received a report from a motorist about her windscreen being shattered by a particle falling from a truck while a child was seated in the back of the car. With this and other ordeals, Ms. Delavante is reiterating the NWA's appeal for persons to utilize the corridors of the highway project as carefully and as responsibly as they can. She pointed out that truck drivers ought not to overload their vehicles and should ensure their cargo is adequately covered. Notably, the newest section of the St. Thomas leg of the highway project, which was opened to motorists a few weeks ago, is an incline that crosses the Bull Bay River. Rastafarian students will soon be able to wear their locks to school without covering them. Education and Youth Minister Favour Williams says the provision will be in the draft of a dress and grooming policy for schools, and it's to be published within a few weeks. She made the announcement on Wednesdays and said teachers' feedback would be sought on the draft ahead of the implementation. Their views will also be sought on proposed changes to how devotions are conducted in schools and on the draft of a national school nutrition policy. Minister Williams says all are welcomed to read the draft and submit their opinions. She says, quote, "We want you to look at it in your context. We want you to understand the framework within which the dress and grooming policy will operate. We want you to try it in your schools and give us your feedback. That's why it is in draft form," end quote. According to the minister, it's going to take time to get to the final stage, but the stakeholders' input is important because while it may sound good on paper, it might be difficult in its implementation. In the business report, gas prices are down. Find out by how much from our reporter, Danita Rodney.
Motorists should see a decrease at the pumps in the price of gasoline effective Thursday, August 24. According to latest ex-refinery costs from Petrojam, 87 octane is down by 25 cents and will sell for $183.95 per liter, while a liter of 90 octane will go down by 25 cents to sell for $188.45. Automotive diesel is down by 38 cents per liter and will sell for $179.65, and ultra-low sulfur diesel will sell for $187.55 per liter, following a decrease of 58 cents. However, kerosene increased in price by $3.06 will sell for $187.40 per liter. Additionally, propane liquid petroleum will sell for $62.79, down by $1.90, while butane will move down by $2.06 to sell for $70.72 per liter. Remember that marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markup to these prices. Panjam Group has recorded growth in earnings for the June quarter following its absorption of the food and logistics operations of Jamaica Producers Group. Shareholder profits have reportedly rose to $1.08 billion in the quarter, or 80 cents per share, up from $694.4 million or 66 cents per share a year earlier. In its financial report, the group said the increase can be attributed to the merger, which took effect on April 1 and resulted in a business asset totaling $127 billion. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Wednesday, August 23, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.92. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $116.36. The pound sterling traded for $197.85, and the euro sold for $167.78. In JSE trading, the JSE index advanced by over 1,867 points. The junior market index declined by over 52 points. The combined market index advanced by over 709 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index advanced by over 1,340 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 98 stocks, of which 31 advanced, 50 declined, and 17 traded firm. Stocks advanced for Caribbean Cement Company Limited, Caribbean Cream Limited, and Carreras Limited. Stocks declined for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Barbados Investments Limited, and BRICS Jamaica Limited. Trading firm were Caribbean Producers Jamaica Limited, Siboney Group Limited, and Derrimon Trading Company Limited. The overall volume leaders were Trans Jamaican Highway Limited with over 2 million units, Wixon Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares, and Stationery and Office Supplies Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Calypso Macro Index Fund was the only active security posting a volume of over 1,000 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Epley Caribbean Property Fund Value Fund was the volume leader with over 13,000 shares. They were followed by First Caribbean International Bank, which traded over 3,000 shares, and Emera Deposit Receipt, which traded 5 shares. In regional business, in Trinidad and Tobago, the Global Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs) can only be met if stakeholders cooperate, collaborate, and work together. This from Planning and Development Minister Penelope Beckles. She was speaking at the Joint National Steering Committee on Wednesday. More from TTT News.
The government and other stakeholders in pursuit of the 17 global SDGs and the United Nations have jointly undertaken the Multi-Country Sustainable Development Cooperation Framework 2022 to 2026. Planning and Development Minister Penelope Beckles said through the MSDCF TNT is strengthening its implementation mechanisms and resources for enhanced benefits to all residents and citizens. She announced that the government and the UN have conducted the first meeting for 2023 of the Joint National Steering Committee JNSSC of the MSDCF 2022 to 2026. The meeting focused on the analysis of the delivery of implementation of the country plan and the effectiveness of results groups with key action points identified in areas such as migrant support, building capacity in the agricultural sector, sexual reproductive health, gender-responsive financial support, and more. Progress towards the intended deliverables of Country Implementation Plan TT 2023 was assessed, as well as changes in the national context, with partnerships and resources identified. Success and failure factors, challenges and opportunities were analyzed, with lessons learned and recommendations made to improve performance, and guidance was provided in terms of prospects for the remainder of the year 2023, particularly in relation to the strategic priorities and key actions to improve CIP-TT visibility and delivery. Mahalia Joseph Wharton, TTT News.
In international business, U.S. stocks ended sharply higher as shares of NVIDIA gained ahead of quarterly results from the company, whose chips are widely used for artificial intelligence computing.
The Dow gained more than 0.5%, the S&P 500 jumped more than 1%, and the tech-heavy Nasdaq leapt nearly 1.6%. Reporting after the bell, NVIDIA forecast third-quarter revenue above Wall Street's targets. Shares of the world's leading chipmaker jumped 9% in after-hours trading after gaining more than 3% at the close. Bullish investors have been hopeful that upbeat news from NVIDIA could further the year's strong rally in tech stocks. Including Wednesday's move, NVIDIA's stock is up more than 220% for the year so far. How high can it go? Well, in this case, what goes up must come down at some point, says Anna Rathbun, Chief Investment Officer at CBIZ Investment Advisory Services.
The investors are expecting NVIDIA to, at some point, achieve the impossible, and at some point that expectation probably needs to be corrected. The correction of expectation is needed at some point because AI is really not ready to be used in a widespread, economy-wide fashion. It will still take a few years. So while AI is certainly an exciting prospect and it's expected to change the way we work and we approach work, it is not here at this moment.
Among other movers, shares of drug maker Gilead Sciences gained nearly 1%, and Merck advanced nearly 4%, after Swiss rival Roche inadvertently published positive lung cancer drug trial data. And shares of Foot Locker plunged more than 28% after the sport apparel retailer lowered its annual forecast. Investors now turn their focus to Friday, when U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell will speak, possibly offering clues on the central bank's next move regarding interest rates.
In market data for oil prices steadied after earlier declines caused by disappointing economic data from key economies. Brent crude climbed 6 cents to $83.27 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude rose 4 cents to $78.93 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Danita Rodney.
In regional news, as climate change continues to have devastating effects on island nations like the Bahamas, Prime Minister Philip Davis says the possibility of legal action against oil-producing countries should be up for discussion.
Those countries that are the largest contributors to climate change. His comments come as he, along with other regional leaders, prepare for the COP28 meeting in Dubai in November.
I think penalties has to be exacted on oil-producing countries or oil-producing companies. Maybe a 2% tax to go into a fund to help our small island developing states to fend itself from the consequences of climate change. So, for example, we need to consider whether or not legal action can be taken against what I call the huge emitters, the industrialized countries, and or the multinational corporations that are contributing to carbon monoxide in the air.
The Prime Minister, who has become an advocate for climate change, says they are awaiting advice from the International Court of Justice to see if countries can be held responsible for their emission. The Bahamas is among those countries directly in harm's way when discussing the harsh impact of climate change. The devastation left behind by monster Hurricane Dorian is just one example of how we are impacted. At the upcoming meeting, Davis says the region will also be pushing for climate financing. Loss and damage financing will also be made available.
Ensuring that the proper architecture for accessing funding is crafted so that countries like ours will not be shut out from financing because of what they deem to be the fact we are a graduated country, because our per capita income, right, is such that we are considered a middle-income country, and therefore we don't have access to grants and the kind of concessionary lending that we had. And the fight is to change that model.
All right.
In Barbados, marijuana users are being warned about the presence of 2 potentially deadly drugs that are being mistaken for weed. The 2 substances are called synthetic cannabinoids because they mimic the biological effect of THC, the main psychoactive ingredient in marijuana or cannabis. Director of the Forensic Sciences Center, Cheryl Corbin, revealed the findings of the tests during a press conference on Wednesday. Synthetic cannabinoids are substances made in a lab using chemicals that are unfit for human consumption.
It was being used as if it was cannabis. And obviously, because of all of the videos and everything that being circulating on social media, okay, we did the initial scientific analysis as if it was cannabis to realize there was no THC in there at all. Okay, what we found were BDMB-4EN Pinica and 4-fluoro-BDMB Butica, which were the 2 synthetic cannabinoids that we referred to previously.
This concern is buttressed by information that having been first identified in one country in May 2020. 3 months later, in August, that country had recorded 11 deaths from this SC. This speaks to not only the toxicity, but the speed with which this drug impacts individuals. To have a situation such as this develop here places an additional burden on an already challenged public health system struggling to recover from the impacts of COVID-19, as well as the health issues which have arisen as a result of natural disasters locally. I want to underscore the point that was made, that these synthetic cannabinoids have no accepted medical use in treatment. In fact, these products are usually labeled not for human consumption.
The Guyana government has begun the necessary adaptation to the changing digital environment of artificial intelligence and robotics, And President Dr. Ifran Ali believes these efforts can be bolstered with the support of working-class citizens. On Wednesday, he outlined the ongoing work at the government level and urged the support of trade unions in the process.
7 years after its last meeting, Guyana's largest trade union body on Wednesday hosted hundreds of its members at the Arthur Chang Conference Center in Georgetown for its 22nd Delegates Congress. Scores of working-class citizens, many employed in the agricultural sector on sugar estates, arrived in large trucks to review the work of the union since its last Congress in 2016, while also considering local and international developments. But as the Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union deliberates for the next 2 days on advancing workers' rights, economic progress and social justice, a new topic was placed on the table. It was President Dr. Irfan Ali who used the occasion to challenge trade union bodies in Guyana and the wider Caribbean to spend time to address these rapid technological changes that are being foisted on the workforce across the world.
What is the role of AI in the region? Can we remain competitive without adjusting to robotics, AI, and digitizing our economy? Can we even be relevant in a new world if we are not adapting to AI, the digital economy, and robotics? How is it the trade union would function in this new environment of AI, robotics, and the digital economy?
Dr. Ali said discussions must be held on how the trade union movement will function in this new environment. To match the advancement of AI with the development of the workforce, Dr. Ali reminded of an agreement signed between Guyana and the UAE to train 150,000 children in coding. But even with this challenge on the table, Dr. Ali has committed to ensuring that he and his government engage with workers directly.
What were the consequences of working from home? And how relevant trade union will be if the future in robotics and digital economy and AI, when more people may work from home. These are the real questions that really face you. So when we speak about awareness, we have to be aware of where the real world is.
Dr. Ali said the government will heed its responsibility, but he also called on workers to understand their responsibility and remain aware of the ever-changing environment. Following the opening ceremony, the Congress will shift to the business sessions where these issues are expected to be further addressed. The business session will also see some 20 motions being moved and debated. The proposed motions address several important and relevant issues that are sure to attract some level of discussion. For the newsroom, Kurt Campbell.
In international news, leaders of the BRICS alliance of 5 nations have invited another 6 countries to join. They are Argentina, Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates. The South African president made the announcement on Thursday. Al Jazeera has the details.
We have decided to invite the Argentine Republic, the Arab Republic of Egypt, the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates to become full members of BRICS. The membership will take effect from the 1st of January 2024.
My correspondent Fahmi Miller is joining us live from Johannesburg. BRICS group attracting a level of interest rarely seen since its founding in 2014. Fahmi, the dozens of countries expressed their interest in joining, but only 6 have been accepted for now.
It's likely, Elizabeth, that the criteria was pretty tight in terms of who they might admit. There's been a lot of debate amongst these BRICS members around who should be admitted, when that should be done. And looking at who they've included in this admission, we see also increased representation from African countries, Ethiopia and Egypt. And South Africa has been squarely behind that, wanting African countries, the global south, to have a bigger place within this grouping. But to give us greater insight into what might have informed this decision, we're speaking to Michael Bosseque, a global affairs analyst. Now, Michael, what is likely behind the admission of these 6 new members? What is it that would have taken them into the BRICS grouping?
Sure. Well, it looks like China was very, very keen to expand BRICS. In fact, the Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson said it's going to breathe new vitality into the bloc. For sure it will, but the choice is very interesting. So we have Argentina, so more representation from South America, Egypt, Ethiopia, African continent. Ethiopia was, I think, a little bit unexpected. Iran, I have a suspicion there might have been some Russian maneuvering behind that. They're close allies. And then Saudi Arabia and UAE, that signals to me more cash infusion into the development bank. Missing there was Indonesia and Mexico. We were expecting them to come in as well.
The annual BRICS summit is being held in Johannesburg, South Africa. In sports, after mining another silver medal in the 100 meters final, Sharika Jackson has turned her attention to the women's 200 meters at the World Athletics Championships in Hungary. She did just enough to progress to the semifinals on Wednesday. Jackson led the 200 meters women and was joined by Natalia White and Kevonna Davis. Natoya Gould and Adele Tracy made progress in the women's 800 meters. Wayne Pinnock, Kerry McDonald and Tajay Gale are through to the final in the men's long jump. And Andrew Hudson and Rashid Dwyer made it to the semifinals in the men's 200 meters. Restaurants of Jamaica, ROJ, through one of its brand, KFC, has announced their ongoing partnership with Issa Schoolboy Football through a $15 million investment in sponsorship of this upcoming season. KFC's sponsorship symbolizes the company's continued contribution to youth development through sports. The season's launch was held on August 23 at the National Stadium East. In a statement on Wednesday, KFC Jamaica said for decades it has been a firm supporter of youth development through sports such as basketball, track and field, and of course, football. ROJ's brand manager Andre Roper says his team is looking forward to another season filled with drama, passion, and unforgettable moments on the football field. During a candid interview with ESPN Crick Info, former West Indies international star Deandra Dotton made a passionate plea for players to be better respected and resourced.
They're not getting that attention, they're not getting that support, they're not getting anything from West Indies cricket, and they're thinking about going somewhere else and playing cricket. WIPL is a big thing, to be honest. I mean, like you've seen in the draft how players get drafted and the kind of money they got drafted for. So if it is that players can get themselves in that draft and hopefully get picked, then they will be like, well, if I can't get picked in WPL, if I can't get picked WBBL, if I can't get picked in the 100, then why would they play West Indies cricket? That's actually what West Indies should be afraid about. Because if you have players that have the talent, they actually put it in the world and you're not paying them any money, and all of them go elsewhere, what would you have for West Indies cricket internationally? You wouldn't have anything. So I mean, like, as I say, the care, the respect and the support is needed. I can't really say, and I don't know where West Indies stands financially, but despite financially and put aside the structure, and as I said before, the respect and the care for the players is not there.
Very interesting points from Dotton indeed.
And that's the news on PBCJ. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBC Jamaica. Thank you so much for watching.